Hello, my name is Katrina and welcome to Moonbelly Makes, where I share all of the projects that I love to do, from cooking to crafting to baking. Today I'm sharing with you how I made a dress out of a thrifted tablecloth to wear to a wedding that we went to last June. It's really important to me to do things in the most sustainable way possible, and there is just so much fabric sitting in thrift stores, and it's a very affordable way to make your own clothes. Buying fabric can get really expensive, but this tablecloth cost me $4. I used thread from another project and elastic from another project, so this dress in total cost me $4. I learned a lot in this process and I can't wait to share it with you, but before we get to it, just take a second. Just like, do you hear that? Do you hear it? That's new music. And it's not just any music, but it is music that Josh wrote, composed, recorded, and made for me. So starting with this video and moving forward, my music will be made by my sweet, wonderful, talented husband. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy the new music, and stay tuned for more music coming in the future. I just started with a couple songs, but there'll be more songs popping up, and I hope you like it. So anyway, here is how I made the dress.
There are a bunch of ways to get your hands on a pattern for making clothes at home. For this dress, I decided to draft it myself, which means that I used a set of instructions and my measurements, plus a bunch of math, to come up with the sizes that I needed for the fabric pieces. Other ways are draping, which is making the pattern in real time on a dress form that I totally don't know how to do but really want to learn, or buying a paper pattern, either already printed or printing it for yourself. I used a combination of 2 self-drafting tutorials and started by figuring out the sizes for the bodice pieces. Then I used this old fabric to make a mock-up of that bodice, officially known as a toile or a muslin, so that I could make sure I liked how it would fit. I stitched the toile on the biggest stitch of my machine so that it would be easy to take apart and adjust, and then tried it on.
This seems like a good width across.
Once I had pinned on some fake straps, it became apparent that there was this huge gapping happening in the armpit. This has happened with almost every garment I've ever sewed for myself, so there's definitely something about my proportion that leads to this outcome every time. I also checked the length of the bodice super officially and professionally, since the bottom of the bodice is the top of the skirt, and I wanted to make sure it hit at the right place on my body, in this case, the natural waist. I have a really awesome book called Fantastic Fit for Every Body, and it shows really great ways of fixing problems like this. Using what I've learned in this book, I took a tuck in the fabric and then made my second toile using this new shape. And after stitching it together and trying it on, I had super high hopes that it would be perfect, but it totally wasn't. With an air of discouragement, I set it down for the day.
I spent the past couple days every now and then working on this, and I have, I think, a pretty good mock-up of what I want the front top to be. I made a bunch of them, let me show you. So this was the first one that I made, maybe? No, the second one? There's kind of 2 ways that I have been going about making this fit. The first way is to make little tucks in the fabric as I'm wearing it. Like this one here is the front and center little tuck here. And then when I cut out the next one, I've been basically pretending that that tuck isn't there and cutting it in this kind of new shape. The other thing that I'm doing is I want there to be an actual dart in this dress top. I thought that to make a dart, you just sew it. Wrong. So I followed a really amazing tutorial that I'll link below about how to make an actual bust dart. You just take a little triangular tuck and sew it. It makes the whole thing smaller. So you have to account for that, and now I know how to do it. Well, now I know how to follow a tutorial and do it. So this is maybe, I think, the second one that I did, and then a couple of them. Oh, this was, I think, the last one where I was like, I guess I need to add more to the sides so that the dart fits, but that didn't work because that's not how you do it. This is just like a pile of scraps at this point. Fabric flying everywhere. This one I cut in half and had a different kind of, yeah, it was this way. It had a different kind of dart going from the armpit down rather than from the side just across. I think there was one more somewhere, but anyways, let's show you the one that worked. I had to switch fabric because I ran out of that cool rope fabric. So the back is the original back that I made, which is why it's still in the rope fabric. And then the front is in this old flannel that I had. But it's got a dart on the side that works quite well. That's, you can see it from the inside. Because I had made the pattern eventually, I had made it wider. I actually had to make this one more narrow, so I took a big tuck in the center. So when I go to actually cut it out, I won't have that tuck in it. Okay, so there it is. It will not have this like extra fabric in the front, but it has the dart so that it's not like pulling across. And I think that the back, like the way that it comes up, I think is cute. So there it is. I'm so scared to cut out the actual fabric because I thought I was gonna have to like maybe make one mock-up, maybe two. And the fact that I've made, I don't know, this is what, the fifth one I think, makes me so nervous to cut out the actual fabric, but it must be done. I'm gonna cut out two copies, like two of the front and two of the back that are exactly the same. And then one is gonna become the lining so that it isn't so flat. It has a little bit of body to it. Body from my body. As I'm talking to you, I'm having regrets. Not regrets, I'm having questions. I'm questioning the back coming up so high. I'm gonna make one more back. I'm gonna make a back that goes across out of the same blue. It'll be a little bit easier to see. And then that's gonna be the last, you can't ever say this. It's like putting final version or whatever, like on your computer. It's never the final. You can never say that going into it. But maybe this will be the last mock-up. Maybe. Okay, the front is the same. The back is better. Do I cut it out of the actual fabric right now? Is that what I'm doing right now? My nerves are because I don't have a lot of fabric, and I want to make sure I have enough to make like a really big skirt. I'm gonna like take a breath and have some tea, and then I think I'm gonna actually cut this out. Okay, I made some tea, and this is happening. So I think I might actually try to make this in the front. I'm gonna make it even tighter because then that will bring the straps in. See, this is why you can never say final draft, final mock-up. There's always adjustments that can happen. I highly recommend safety pins when you are making clothes because they don't hurt you if they poke you.
And finally, it was time to cut it out of the actual fabric. So I cut 2 pieces for the front and 2 for the back. I was a bit fussy about how I cut this, and yes, fussy is the official term for cutting out fabric in a particular place according to the pattern on the fabric. I cut these pieces so that I could get this detailing across the top of the bodice at the exact height that I wanted, both on the front and the back. I pinned the fabric together so that it wouldn't shift, and then used my ruler and pencil to ensure that the lines were perfectly straight. To mark where the end of the dart goes, I used this nifty trick of poking a pin through from each side and then gently pulling apart. I just love this trick. Okay, I did it. I have anxiety. First of all, I'm thinking that it looks beautiful. I think it's gonna be great. So like, let's start with the positives. I am obviously nervous that it's not gonna fit right, it's not gonna work, but I think it's gonna be fine. I did enough work on it. The other thing that's like a little concerning is I hope that I have enough fabric and that I didn't like mess up. I do want to put pockets into this, but I might just make the pockets out of a different fabric as like a little accent. I have the perfect thread for this. It's a little light, but it's basically the perfect thread. Shout out to my friend Terry who needed a jumpsuit hemmed many years ago, and I bought thread for it. And it's like a lighter orange, but it's perfect for this. So
Thanks, Terry, for needing that jumpsuit time to finally sew. Oh, I'm gonna do a little tester. Also, this fabric's really, really ravelly, so even though I'm not gonna do anything with the bottoms, I think I'm just gonna do a stitch, just like a straight stitch around, just to lock it in so that it doesn't fray on me while I'm working with it. Okay.
After a successful stitch test, I marked the sewing lines for the darts from the point to the side seam and stitched those down on both the lining and the outside of the dress. Then I stitched the sides and placed the lining and the outside right sides together before pinning very well and stitching across the top. This fabric is very low maintenance, meaning it does not crease, so pressing it took a good long time because I wanted the top of the dress to have a nice sharp edge and not be like bubbly and awkward. My friend Hester and I have made a lot of clothes together, and she always reminds me that pressing is vital and not to be skipped, even in fabrics that are less balloony than this one. It's sometimes annoying, but it really is important.
I'm gonna try it on. These aren't the real straps. Straps. Oh, did it work? Oh my. Okay, let me get this pinned. I'm a little speechless. It fits. What am I gonna do next? I think the next thing that I need to do is decide how long I want the tiers to be. And I found another tutorial that has a really great formula for figuring it out, which is basically you take this measurement, bottom of the bodice part, and you take that number times 1.5, then you cut out like a big strip of fabric that is however long you want, and then you do that again. So then you take that number and you do 1.5 times that, and that's the next, and then 1.5 times that, and then that's the last one. So I think I'm going to just take some measurements of myself, take some measurements of this, because I don't really know where this is at. So I'm gonna mark the waist. I'm thinking of this through as I'm saying it out loud. And then I'm going to measure what that circumference is. I am going to 1.5 times that, see how many inches that is, hold it up with some measuring tapes and just see if it feels like there's enough space. Because if not, I can taper just the first tier so that it's definitely wide enough. That other tutorial that I was talking about says the first tier is 10 inches, then 13 inches, and then 15 inches at the bottom. And I kind of want to reverse that. I think I want to do 15, 13, and maybe 13 again, or 15, 10, 10. I don't know, I gotta figure that out. But I definitely want the top tier to go past my hips. I don't want there to be a seam right at the hip. I want it to be more at my thigh. So I'm gonna take a bunch of measurements and then do some math. Okay, let me catch up our friends. Yes. Let me catch them up. Okay, so this dress is the length that I want, and it actually has a tier in it. I'm gonna be doing 3, not 2, but it's a little helpful to figure it out. My mom is on FaceTime and we're trying to figure out how long each tier should be. Now you're up to speed. We were disagreeing.
Yes.
Okay, now you're in the frame. if right now it's at 13, 5, and 10, is that what it's at now? Or 13, 5, and 11 or something? But I feel like it should, I like the 5 for the middle one.
Yeah.
But I feel I could make it like, instead of 15, instead of 13, I could make it like 14, 5, and yeah. So if I math this out, 80, 120. Okay, I'm gonna measure it out and see how it's looking. Okay, this is my diagram. So basically, the way that it's folded over, the bottom is bigger than the top because of how I've already cut it out. I can just barely make it work. This little section here is gonna be what I have left over to make the straps. Hopefully that's enough, it might not be, and if I need to change how the straps are, I think having the skirt be full and lush is more important.
I couldn't find my pocket pattern, so I grabbed this lemon dress I made for my friend Lauren's wedding and traced the shape of it. I used this old dress from college to make the pockets themselves, and following the measurements from the lemon dress, stitched them in place. Attaching pockets like this always kind of trips me up, but basically the steps are stitch right sides together using one piece of the pocket against the skirt piece with a narrow seam allowance. Then stitch around the belly of the pocket, and then stitch the side seam of the skirt with a normal seam allowance, leaving an opening for my hand to go in.
All the pieces are done. This you know, your old friends, but I have a bodice. Needs real straps. We'll get there when we get there. Bodice, done. Then I have the top tier that has the pockets. The next piece is the middle tier, which is just, I made it into one big tube, and I had to be careful before I finished it completely. I stood up and held it like this just to make sure that I wasn't making a Mobius strip so it wasn't twisted. And then this is tier 3, which is made out of 4 pieces of fabric, 2 big ones and 2 small ones, so that it could be big enough, but it is massive. It's gonna be such a big skirt. I hope it looks good. I think that this is it for today, but I made a lot of progress and I'm really excited about it, and I feel like it's gonna work, which I'm very excited about. And I had enough fabric for the skirt, which I'm also very excited about. I'm not trying to make this a huge part of my internet personality, but I am always late, especially when it comes to projects. I'm just always doing them right at the last minute. We are leaving for this wedding in 2 days, so hopefully I can finish this today. I think I can.
She, in fact, could not.
I found a really awesome tutorial on Instagram about a different way to make gathers in fabric. Normally you do 2 rows of big stitches next to each other and then pull, and that I've actually always had issues with that, and with this fabric being so thick, thread just having the tendency to break, I was kind of nervous about it. So I'm going to try this way. I think it's going to be a lot easier. Before I do that, I'm going to mark on every tier where the quarters are. Quarters, so that I can make sure to line up the quarters when I am gathering. I think that will just make things a lot easier. Normally when you buy a pattern, there'd be notches in that. I think there's a couple places I maybe stitched the yarn in, so this might fail. In theory it works. Let's see, there's a spot where I kind of stitched it in. Don't know what to do about that. I am genuinely pleased with how well that worked. There were some little places where I had to cut it and try again because I had stitched over the yarn a little bit. I think a thinner cord and or a wider zigzag would be good, but this is what I have. I am going to line up the safety pins and then just kind of futz around with it so that it's an even, smooth gather all the way around. And then I'm gonna pin it like crazy. Tons of pins. So I definitely need to go in on the inside and take out the zigzag and take out the yarn, but I'm gonna do that once I do all of the layers. But for now, I mean, it's pretty good. I'm gonna put on the next layer. It's just the top now. It's got a lot of nice movement, doesn't it?
I pinned the bodice and the skirt together somewhat where I wanted it to be, took it off, pinned it better, and then tried it on again.
I just put this on and I felt like it actually was a little bit not in the right spot in the front, so I'm just taking out the stitching in the very front and I'm moving it back up just a little bit, just in the very front. I'm kind of leaning towards adding elastic instead of a belt for a couple of reasons. One is that I don't really have a ton of fabric left, and I'd rather use the fabric for the straps. So I put a pin where I want the front now to be. So I'm just going to pop that up a little bit. Hopefully that will be the last time, but as we know, there's no such thing as a final draft until it's the final draft. All right. I think that looks a little bit straighter across there, so I'm happy about that. So now I'm gonna finish cutting out the straps. I thought I had cut them all out, but I only cut out one. So let me cut out the other one. Okay, so now I have this stuff ready for the straps, and I was able to include a little bit of detail here. So that will be the front of each strap, the front half. And I had to do it in 2 pieces for this one, but the back is gonna be in 1 piece. Straps, they're a little fluffy right now. I will iron them, and I might also top stitch them. So just do like a little stitch all the way around the outside, very, very close to the edge. So here's how I'm gonna attach them. I don't know how you're supposed to do it, but here's how I'm gonna do it. This is the top of the bodice. I'm just gonna take apart the stitching enough so that I can slide the strap in between the 2 layers of the bodice and then pin it down, and then I'm gonna top stitch around the whole thing so that it's like completely seamless. And it's like, how'd the straps even get in there? Good morning. It's not like we leave tomorrow or anything. I put the sleeves on, the straps. Can I be in the video?
Nope.
I'm actually very happy with the straps. I think they're really fun. What I'm not happy with is the waistline. I really wanted it to be an A-line. It's not gonna work as an A-line. It needs to have some sort of definition. And right now where this seam is, it's like halfway between like an empire and a natural waist. And I wanted it to be natural waist, and I said that before, but it just doesn't look or feel as good right there. Let me show you. I've been using this belt as a belt. I don't want to wear a belt. I have, it's actually a really beautiful piece of Japanese silk, but I just ripped it, so I don't know if I'm gonna use that. But I also have a little bit left of this fabric that I could make a belt out of. But anyways, this is what it looks like at the natural waist. And just because of the shape of my body and the way that this dress is, I do better with a skirt that has some darts in it, I think. It's okay, it's not bad. And as you can see, this seam for the back is like totally in the wrong place. If I were to do this, I would need to move the back down. And then if I scoot it up a little bit, so it is more that like empire place, or empire. I don't really know how you're supposed to say it. I've always said empire, but that might be a little pretentious. I don't mean it to be. If I put it up here, get it in the right spot, I think it just looks a little bit, I just feel a little bit better in it, which is not what I was expecting. The seam is still not really in the right place. It's just in the wrong place in the back. It's in the wrong place in the front. So I have pinned at the top of the belt, I put pins, and that's where I want the seam to be just a little bit below that, so it can be either hidden by the belt, or I'm gonna start just by putting elastic in, because I think that will be better. I never really wanted to wear a belt. If I have to, I will, but I'd love to do it just without.
It took about 3 tries, but I finally moved the bodice up to where I wanted it to be. Then I cut the excess fabric off the bottom of it so that I could make a tube by folding the bodice and the bodice lining in on itself.
Okay, I did the tube. There it is. And it's right next to the top of the skirt. I have this elastic that was the inside of a fitted sheet that I got from a thrift store also, so fully thrifted. And I'm going to feed it through, so I'm gonna put a safety pin on one side to hold it in place and like pin it right to the dress. And then this safety pin I'm going to attach
like this to the end, and I can pull it through the tube with the safety pin. I pressed and then top stitched the straps, did some finishing to the elastic and the waistband, and the dress was done. Like, totally done. I want to show you how much material went into this and how little I have left. Let's start with the thread. Pretty funny, the bobbin is almost empty. There's very, very little thread. That's all I've got left on the spool. And then this is it for the fabric. There's really not much here. I'm going to put this ravelly fabric away. Some of the bigger pieces I think can go into like the actual fabric stash, but it's mostly crumbs, mostly fabric crumbs. I fully intended to like give you a big reveal at the wedding and take some footage, but I totally forgot. I had too much fun. I did get some great pictures. The photographer at the wedding took some pictures for me, which was so nice. So I'll share those at the end. Thank you, Hiromi. But for now, I'm gonna show you the dress in my driveway in October. Are you ready? Here it goes. So I hope you enjoyed watching this dress come together from the thrift store to the wedding to October in my driveway. And if you did enjoy it, there's plenty more projects coming. I'm so excited to share them with you. Always trying to find new ways to repurpose things or find things that are secondhand. So make sure that you are, you know, just so that you can stay up to date with all the things going on in Moonbelly land. You can also find me on Instagram or join the newsletter. Links for that are, you know where they are. Thanks for sharing your time with me today. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Sending love to wherever you are. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Hear the kids screaming. I live very close to a school. Maybe I shouldn't film outside.